Well, I graduated from Marshall with a degree in print journalism in 2001. And right out of college, I was hired at the Herald Dispatch, where I worked for 12 years. I covered county government the first year I was there. The remaining 11 years, I covered city government. And I covered a lot of growth issues, housing, um, the economy, things like that, having to do with Huntington as well. Um, about 3 years ago, the city began looking for a communications director. It was a position that they'd never had before. Um, it, it, Mayor Williams felt that it was a position that was desperately needed for many reasons. The position was posted in the fall of 2013, um, and I did some soul searching. Um, it was not an easy decision for me to make because I still loved working in the newspaper business, but looking at the long term, um, I felt like that a career change was needed. I was very attracted to this position because, number one, I was very familiar with the workings of city government, having covered city government for 11 years. Um, and, I've also lived here all my life, and I became much more involved in the community through my time at the Herald Dispatch. And, it sounds Pollyannish a little bit, but I really wanted to do something to help out my community. In my role, I'm responsible for, not only dealing with the media. I mean, there are several traditional, um, you know, duties that any communications director would have in writing press releases and, um, you know, d- dealing with the media, making sure that their requests are answered promptly. Um, things of that nature. But I look at it more as we are the heartbeat of the city, and I think that we have a responsibility to inform the public of not just how their tax dollars are being spent or the services that we're providing to them, but I think that we have a role in letting people know about everything good going on here in Huntington. When I'm out in the community and I talk to people and they say that they really see um, some positives coming out of City Hall when for so many years there was there was a lot of distrust with city government. People didn't feel that city government could accomplish what it needed to accomplish. So that's the greatest triumph for me. Being in front of a camera isn't it didn't come naturally to me, so that was a learning experience. Certainly had a few um, interviews that I know I could have done better at, um, and I feel like I have progressed in that regard, but I know I still have a long way to go. The event planning was part of the job that I didn't realize would be such a large part of it. But and I've learned along the way there as well. There are numerous things that you have to take into account, and it's it is a chore, but we're very active in conducting press conferences, forums with federal and state agencies, and so it's just making sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. You have to pay attention to detail in this position, and you have to stay on top of everything, and you have to be prepared to set aside something that you're working on that is important to take care of something else that's more immediate. So you always have to use your time wisely and pay attention to detail. A typical day is trying to work on, long-term projects that you've been assigned. For example, right now I'm working on an application to submit to the U.S. Conference of Mayors for their annual Livability Awards competition. Um, it's a contest that recognizes cities across the country for innovative programs that they've created to deal with their problems. And so we submitted an application for the Mayor's Office of Drug Control Policy. Um, we found out a few weeks ago that we were a finalist in the competition. So the application that they require now, it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of information that we have to submit to them. So I will try to work on long-term projects such as that. That's my emphasis throughout the day, but there are always things that will disrupt that. Anything from media calls, wanting an interview, either with the mayor or with me about a certain topic. A lot of times, I try to obviously stay on top of every issue within city government, but sometimes when we get a phone call from the media and they want to talk to me about something, it requires me to do some research myself and go to a particular office in the building and try to find out, what's going on. And, so so that I feel comfortable and knowledgeable about getting in front of a camera and talking about it. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of dealing with social media. We are very active on social media. On Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well. So, luckily I do have an intern that will, deal with that from time to time, but mostly it's us back there, making sure that that our accounts stay active and that we respond to people who have questions. There are a lot of constituent questions that we'll get either via email or through social media. So we try to address those promptly. We're writing letters of support for various organizations that have requested them, mayoral proclamations. So there's never really any downtime here. It's a very busy job, but it's a very rewarding job as well. I would say that the benefits are clearly it allows us to engage the public through another means of communication. Um, I think that um, people feel very comfortable in a way by engaging us on social media, by asking questions. I mean, it's very normal. It's a way in which they can reach out to their city officials, ask a question that they have either about a service or something that went wrong with the service, and they get a fairly quick response. So I think that's the benefit of it. The downside of it is that people also feel like they can say whatever they want, and so there is some refereeing that goes on. But it's and that was one of the things that I was concerned about when I took this job. But it really hasn't been not even close to the issue that I thought it would be. There are some people who are gonna be negative no matter what, and you just have to sort of separate yourself from that. And on social media, you don't want to pick fights. I mean, some people are just going to say what they want to say, and you let it go. I would say that your heart has to be in it. Um, I would say that you have to be committed to it. You have to be prepared to work extremely long hours. Um, you and not only working long hours, but knowing that the pay, at least coming out of college, may not be all that great. Um, but it's a very rewarding job. Um, Not just working at a newspaper for many years, but being in this position as well. I mean, I've been very fortunate to come to work every day um, to a job that I truly love. You have to become um, as comfortable in your skill sets as you possibly can. You have to possess diverse talents or skills these days. Um, you have to you have to know how to write. You have to know how to communicate clearly and also effectively. Um, I think that you need to have expertise in graphic design, which is a big plus. I think you have to be comfortable with the camera. I think that, you know, you have to possess, you have to clearly be strong in writing and in communicating. Those two are critical. Anything you can build upon that is also important.